Good evening. I'm Kelly Wright. Thanks for joining me as we spend this next hour together. As always, you know it, I am hoping that you're safe and well, taking care of yourself and your family because you matter. And certainly in this day and age when we're struggling against a coronavirus pandemic, it's really important that you do understand that you matter and your friends and family should matter. So mask up and COVID down. My opening observations are based upon the great singer Ella Fitzgerald, who once stated, just don't give up what you're trying to do. When there is love and inspiration, I don't think you can go wrong. Think about that and let it marinate in your heart, in your mind, and in your spirit as you try to deal with your family and friends this holiday season in dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. Don't give up. Keep inspiring. And those are my opening observations. So topping the show tonight, we talked to Dr. Jack Zamora, joining us from Denver, Colorado. And he is someone who is quite aware of what's going on with the coronavirus. And he's also someone who treats it right now with stem cell technology and stem cell treatments. We're going to talk about that. But Doc, before we do that, I'd like to ask you about the vaccine itself. It's going to be approved here within a matter of days, possibly by tomorrow, by the FDA to be dispersed throughout the United States. It will not reach all of the Americans in enough time between now and March, when it's predicted that we'll see something like 471,000 deaths from coronavirus. And there's also the case of allergic reactions being reported, at least by two healthcare professionals in the UK. What concerns do you have about the efficacy of this vaccine?
Well, it's just like any other medication that we give to our patients. We're going to have some patients that experience an allergic reaction, or it doesn't work, or they experience other side effects like leg cramping or even some neurological issues. The difficulty with this situation is we're dealing with a virus that is new, that we don't have a significant amount of previous experience, and we are doing everything we can to bring a solution to the forefront. And I think the more, the better. And so maybe it's going to be a different formulation of the vaccine. Maybe it's going to be involved with a secondary medication in conjunction with the vaccine. Really hard to say right now. But on our end at Vitro Biopharma, we're doing what we can to create a treatment through stem cell technology to treat the sickest patients. So even if we're having this surge of cases and a significant increase in the number of patients who are passing away from coronavirus, I think that we'll be able to, if successful, treat a significant number of those sickest patients and really decrease the mortality rate. Across the world, stem cells have been shown to be pretty successful, and I hope that's the case here as well.
Yeah, I want to talk to you more about the stem cell treatments of COVID-19 because it has not been widely reported. And right now, perhaps because of the dire warnings that we might reach a lot more deaths between now and March, we need to be discussing it. Before we go deeper into stem cells, I want to go back to something else about this vaccine. When it comes to America, Dr. Anthony Fauci, one of the top epidemiologists in the world, has sent a message out to Black America to have them trust in the efficacy of this vaccine. You and I are from the Black and brown communities, and we know in the Black community there's been a lot of distrust based on a myriad of experiments that have taken place in the past where Blacks have been treated as guinea pigs. What are your concerns about putting information out there that will help Black Americans and brown Americans have more trust of this vaccine?
Well, I think the most important piece of information to note is that of all of the groups of people, we're the ones that are more likely to suffer greatest from this virus. And so it's almost as if we're better positioned to experiment, if you will, on ourselves, because boy, if we don't, we're in for it. So.
That's a very good point. A lot of people will look over the risk factors of the vaccine and go for getting that vaccination based on the fact that there's so many health disparities and we've been hit so hard by the coronavirus. Back to stem cells. You've seen some remarkable results of treating COVID patients who are literally dying, and you've seen them come back from death because of stem cells. Tell me about that and your experiences with that.
Yes, we've treated a handful of patients now throughout the U.S., from California to New York, Alaska, and we have seen a range of disease, from a pretty typical, just severe respiratory distress to a patient that has been a Hispanic patient with diabetes, hypertension, who had a stroke, who was intubated for a number of days and paralyzed, and failed plasma and remdesivir. That's probably the worst combination of all cases. And he did really well, and he's home now, and you'll probably see him on the news in a short time. But to see that level of success is definitely sheds a significant amount of light on this whole situation. And so if we're able to create this stem cell product and have it approved by the FDA and be able to treat not necessarily 300 million Americans, but maybe the 400,000 sickest Americans, then maybe we'll have a good shot at hopefully changing the tide and the perception and the impact of this disease.
Yeah, and you are reasonably confident that you can save a lot of lives by utilizing stem cells. And I understand you're taking stem cells from the umbilical cord in order to treat patients in those dire needs. And the FDA is looking at this. I spoke with a doctor at Johns Hopkins University on Monday and asked him the same question about stem cells. And he says, look, we're doctors. We're trying everything there is to flatten the curve and mitigate this virus, stem cells being a part of that treatment. So it really speaks to the fact that even if we get this vaccine out to 100 million people, as President-elect Joe Biden is basically stating that he wants to do within the first 100 days of his presidency, it may not be enough to help people who are on their deathbeds, and there has to be a treatment. And you're proposing a novel approach. What's taking the FDA so long to get behind you and get this approved?
Well, I have great faith that it's going to work. However, we still have to go through the normal process, the checks of any drug that comes out, so that we're not in the same position of creating allergic reactions and all of these problems that we didn't anticipate.
Dr. Jackson Moore joining me today, and I appreciate you, sir, from joining us from Denver, Colorado. Thank you. Welcome back to the program. Joined now by the West Coast Connection attorneys, Mark Harris and Timothy Allen Simon. Mark Harris being a partner to the Ben & Crump law firm. Timothy Allen Simon, owner of TAS Strategies, as well as chairman of the board of directors of the California African American Chamber of Commerce. Gentlemen, thanks for joining me. Let's talk about President-elect Joe Biden making some more announcements that some people are applauding. The NAACP certainly applauding the appointment of Marcia Fudge to HUD, albeit that many people wanted to see her go to the Department of Agriculture. Instead, the nod for that appointment goes to Vilsack. And he served, of course, during the Obama administration. The NAACP and some others aren't happy with that, but yet they're respecting Joe Biden's prerogative. Gentlemen, what do you feel about this?
I had the honor and pleasure of serving in the Clinton administration at the time that we had the only African-American to ever serve as Secretary of Agriculture, the Honorable Mike Espy. You know, there's so many firsts, and in some ways we should celebrate those firsts, but in other ways it's a pretty sad reality that after all of the years of Black folks lending their efforts, their energies, their intellect to the success of this country that we're just now getting to be the first of this or the first of that. So in that regard, I'm disappointed. I know Governor Vilsack. I knew him when he was the former governor of the state of Iowa. I knew him during the time he was Secretary of Agriculture under President Obama. He served, as you know, 2 terms. I mean, no disrespect, I think he served long enough. At some point, you've got to give way. And, you know, having served for 8 years and now he'll be serving again. I mean, what is it about Governor Vilsack in terms of why it is that this president-elect feels that he should serve in that capacity? So the bottom line is I'm happy for Congressmember Fudge that she was able to be a part of this cabinet. I wish that she had been the Secretary of Agriculture designate, but you know, we're doing the best we can under the circumstances that we find ourselves in.
And Timothy, here's why, thanks for that, Mark. Here's why there is concern about Tom Vilsack getting into that post. As Mark said, he's been there before. Why not go with new blood, new leadership that understands Black farming and the plight that Black farmers have?
I understand the dilemma serving as appointment secretary in California. And I should note that I was the first African-American to serve in the appointment secretary role. There are competing interests that are vying for every position on a cabinet level all the way down. There's just a multitude of interest groups that are weighing in, supporters, and sometimes loyalty and relationships are a factor. I think that may be the case with Governor Vilsack. While the HUD appointment has been traditionally one of our appointments, going back to Patricia Harris, it is still a very critical appointment in our health and well-being as a nation, and in particularly the African-American community. I live in a city where I can drive around and see a multitude of African-Americans sleeping on the streets, what we call houseless. And we need ideas in HUD that can help us deal with the challenge of affordable housing and cleaning up communities.
We'll take a break, come right back, talk about coronavirus and the vaccine. That's next. Welcome back. The West Coast Connection in the house once again. Always a delight to have them here. Attorneys Mark Harris and Timothy Allen Simon. Gentlemen, we talked about the coronavirus yesterday and the vaccine that's out there. Mark, you were very adamant about not taking it. Timothy, you said that you would take it. We've seen some reaction, allergic reaction to the vaccine over in the UK with 2 healthcare officials reacting. And then they were able to address that by having an EpiPen with them. Does that cause you any concern with the fact that the FDA is preparing to actually approve emergency use of the vaccine here in the United States?
I think any new drug treatment has side effects, and it's going to be 3 months until we probably have access to the vaccine anyway. And during that period, I don't mean to be cavalier about this, but I think that period of time will allow the various pharmaceutical companies to see the side effects more closely and those who have allergic reactions. There are people who have allergic reactions to dairy. There are people that have allergic reaction to nuts. Again, I'm not trying to be cavalier. I'm just saying that this vaccine is designed to save lives. And we should think of those who could be with us today if we had that vaccine.
I'm hearing more and more elderly African-Americans say, maybe the reason why we're the ones, not just Black Americans, but why the elderly are the first up is because they're the guinea pigs. They're dispensable and disposable. You know, there are conspiracy theories abounding relative to this. And I just think it's real. I think we have to address that. I think if there's a segment of our society that feels that they're being sacrificed, we need to address that. And I hope Dr. Fauci will speak to that directly.
Timothy?
Well, you know, what I do think is important as the drug rolls out, as we all know, as Black men, we found out in some cases too late, and clearly I'm not a physician, but we found out that, our indicators for prostate cancer was different than white Americans and other ethnicities. African Americans and even Sephardic Jews are known to have sickle cell anemia, for example. So there are ethnic characteristics that contribute to reactions to certain treatments. And I would expect that soon to be Health and Human Secretary Becerra and the other health experts that will be advising President-elect Joe Biden should look at the ethnic factors involved in the vaccines that are being rolled out. There's more than one in the vaccines that are being rolled out throughout the nation and the world.
Gentlemen, good point all the way around. And of course, the president-elect vowing that he will get this vaccine to 100 million people in his first 100 days. It's a tall order. We'll see. When we return, we want to talk about another young brother shot dead by a law enforcement officer. This one taking place in Ohio. That's next. Welcome back to the program. Continuing now with my dialogue with the West Coast Connection attorneys, Mark Harris and Timothy Allen Simon. It's happened once again, and it happened a couple of days ago in Ohio. And now the U.S. Attorney David DeVillers announced Tuesday that the FBI, the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice, and the Columbus Police Critical Incident Response Team will, quote, review the facts and circumstances surrounding the shooting death of Casey Goodson Jr. by Franklin County Sheriff's SWAT deputy Jason Meade on Friday afternoon. This is a heartbreaking situation that we as Black men have become all too familiar with. And I should point out Black women as well. We cannot forget saying the name of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Rayshard Brooks. This has got to stop. And while we don't want to talk about the specifics of the case right now, since it's under investigation, we do need to talk about the fact that it is not target season on Black men. Stop it.
It shouldn't be, but it is, Kelly. It really is. Young Mr. Goodson, Casey Goodson, was entering his own home. He had a permit, a license to carry a concealed weapon. Even as a young 23-year-old, he had complied with all the laws in the state of Ohio and federal laws relative to firearms, and he had a concealed weapon permit. His family has taken the position that at the time of his death, on the day of his death, all he was armed with was literally a Subway sandwich. They said he had a Subway sandwich in his hand at the time he got shot, entering his own home. This is ridiculous. The police say they found a weapon, but we know, I don't know yet in this circumstance because all the facts haven't come out, but we know in other circumstances when there's a bad shoot, various police officers and police departments have planted weapons on victims. So, this is heartbreaking that here we are again, young 23-year-old Casey Goodson shot dead as he was attempting to enter his own home in Columbus, Ohio. I will say that I hope that the Biden administration, when they come in, will be a lot more aggressive and assertive about federal intervention relative to the investigation and prosecution of these police shooting cases. I really hope if Tony West becomes the attorney general or whomever becomes the attorney general, that they take a very aggressive stance on this.
Yeah, and Timothy, I get what Mark is saying. I understand his point, getting aggressive. But we also need to be aggressive on getting police officers to understand that there must be a better appreciation and value of human life with regard to Black men and women.
Well, I agree with Attorney Harris that on the federal level, we need more intervention. We need more consent decrees by way of federal monitors that are overseeing police departments. But I also think it's important for us on the ground, and we can all do this, is to locally push for civilian oversight of police. We bear the risk in the African American community, particularly, of being a police state. where police are not held accountable. Unfortunately, the Second Amendment laws we've seen time and time again does not apply to the African American. And we need to, on the local level, all politics are local, make certain that that selection of the chief, the selection of the grievance policy that is afforded to officers in incidents like this is fair, balanced, but stern. And that is only done, in my view, of when you have citizen oversight of police departments, not just police commissions. Sometimes those can be in and of itself very, very political, and the police unions have a lot of influence oftentimes on those commissions. There needs to be a separate body that is governing over the process and providing the recommendations to both the executive and legislative branch of cities and counties, and even most state attorney generals also have law enforcement capabilities on the state level as well.
We'll continue to follow the developments and see what the Justice Department comes up with. Gentlemen, thank you as always. The West Coast Connection in the house, attorneys Mark Harris and Timothy Allen Simon, much love and blessings to you. And we'll be back with more after this. We're going to introduce you to a good friend of mine, great comedian and a writer. His name is Terry Tuff. We're going to have some tough talk with Terry after this. And welcome back to the program. So I'm delighted and excited to interview this next young man. He is a good personal friend of mine, and we've worked together in radio back in our days in good old Raleigh, North Carolina, the Tar Heel State. And he is a comedian extraordinaire. He's a writer, writes a lot of good material for a lot of artists. He's going to talk about that. But he's also very astute politically and doesn't mind expressing himself politically. Without further ado, let me introduce to you Terry Tuff in the house. What's up, brother?
How are you, Kelly Wright? My man. You're looking great, man. You're looking beautiful, man.
Thank you. So do you. So do you, my friend. You look real good.
Well, this is the best that I can do without surgery. This is this is all I got right here. You know,
and it's good enough.
yeah. As my old boss man, Mr. Les Brown, the greatest motivational speaker in the world, used to tell me, he said, "I'm blessed and highly favored, Terry." That's how I am, Kelly. I'm blessed and highly favored. I'm still here.
Yeah, and we need you here because we need you to impart some wisdom, some of your political analysis, as well as some of your good humor. And, you know, thanks for reminding me that you worked with Les Brown. I'd forgotten that. And Les has been on the show a couple of times. And in fact, I had a whole hour devoted to him. So, you know, Les ran away with that and took it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I was his executive producer for 2 years in Washington, D.C. on Magic 102.3. Yeah, I was executive producer and talent. So, yeah, Les is close to my heart, man. He really is. Yeah.
Well, you're close to my heart too, man. So talk to me about Terry Tuff and all the great things you're doing right now. I understand you have a program called Tough Talk. Tell me about that first.
Yeah, I do. Tough Talk Live. It's a live streaming show that we do every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's basically an opportunity for us to express ourselves about things that are going on in this world, whether it be politics or sports or entertainment. You know, we bring our own perspective to the show, and it allows us to exhale and provide that ordinary citizen commentary. I think, you know, that's important. So yeah, it's a great way because, you know, the pandemic has put me on lockdown. I haven't traveled since March. I haven't been on the comedy stage since March, and so I needed an outlet. I needed something to allow me to let my creative juices out. You know, I wanted people to know what I was thinking, how I was feeling. You know, we were able to put this together. We're excited about it. It started out as a podcast, and now we've transitioned into live streaming. And it's exciting. I have two other people who join me, co-host Marva Williams and John Champion. They do an outstanding job. And I encourage you to join in and listen. We do it every Thursday, 6 p.m.
Oh, I
Eastern
got to
Standard
join in.
Time.
You know that. I know Marva
Absolutely.
and John. I'm glad you're united with them, and that's great chemistry already. So I'm excited about that. What's your take, Mr. Tough, when Tough talk about the president of the United States still pushing for upending this election? Some people have
Well,
likened it to a coup,
yeah.
and the Supreme Court should have put a final nail in this.
Yeah, I'm gonna be kind. You know, Kelly, Donald Trump is a house clown. That's the only way that I can describe him. He is the Jim Jones of 2020.
Wow.
He creates the Kool-Aid, and his followers, I mean, I'm amazed. They drink the Kool-Aid without checking to see what the ingredients are. No concern at all. They just drink it and they follow him like he is the gospel. I don't understand. Well, I do. I understand Donald Trump. You know, Maya Angelou told us many years ago, when somebody tells you who they are, believe them. And he told us early when he was campaigning for his first term who he was. He made fun. This is what totally turned me off about Donald Trump. He made fun of a handicapped reporter. And when he did that, I said to myself, if a man of his age, and he was in his 70s, and he's in his 70s now, can make fun of a person who's handicapped, who had no control over how they became handicapped or what happened to their body. If they can do that to another human being, and you want to run for president, to be the leader of the free world, and you would treat another human being like that, when a person tells you who they are, believe them. And I believed him. So I'm not surprised about anything he's doing. What I am surprised about, Kelly, is the Republicans that support him who are just standing around and saying nothing. I have no idea. Now, there are some other Republicans that understand they think just like him. But there are some Republicans that I'm totally surprised about. For example, Lindsey Graham. What has happened to Lindsey Graham? I mean, I used to have some respect with him. When him and John McCain
Yeah.
were partners and they were traveling around the world, and you know, I had respect for Lindsey. I didn't agree with all his politics, but that's fine. That's perfectly fine. But he made a statement the other day that, you know, what's going on in Georgia can initiate a civil war. And I'm like, dude, what is? I can't even call him Lindsey Graham no more. I just refer to him as Lindsey. You
You know,
know?
echoing that sentiment has been the majority whip, Jim Clyburn, the
Yeah.
Democrat who helped save the presidential aspirations of Joe Biden, and now Joe Biden is the future president.
Mm-hmm.
Look, when we come back, we take a slight break. When we come back, we'll continue to talk to Terry Tuff. Let's talk to you about the Biden future. Can he heal the soul of America? That's next with Terry Tuff. And welcome back to the program. I'm talking to my good friend. We've been friends for a long time, going all the way back to our days in Raleigh, North Carolina. You're still in that great, fabulous state that my wife says she would move back to in a
Yeah.
heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
She loves Raleigh that much. But look, the bottom line is you've never stopped being a person devoted to your comedic talent and your political observations, which have been so on point. It's ruffled feathers for some, but on this program, you're always welcome and to share your insights and your perceptions of what's happening. We just finished talking about President Donald Trump, Lindsey Graham, the Republican side. What do you see on the horizon for the Democrat side, given the fact that Joe Biden, the president-elect, and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris are seeking, as Mr. Biden has stated, to heal the soul of America, to bring about unity? And yet, Terry, we're very much divided in
Yeah.
the United States.
I'm excited, Kelly, about the potential.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of sitting back and waiting now to see if everyone's going to live up to the words or attempt to live up to the words. You know, show some effort. Let me know that you're trying to do what you said you were going to do. Our votes are not free. When I vote for someone, I expect a return. It's just like when I invest money. When I invest money, I expect a return on my vote. When I invest money, I expect a return on my money. When I vote for someone, I expect a return on my vote. votes are not free. And so I'm anxious. I'm excited. I want to see if, and so far, his picks are okay. I'm excited about the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, four-star general, very powerful looking man. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about his vice president pick, Kamala. The ball is in Joe's court, Kelly.
Yeah.
And it's totally up to him. He has an opportunity. He can heal the world. It's going to take time. What we cannot forget, there are 74 million plus people who voted for Trump. 70, we have to accept that. One of the things that Trump can't accept, he says 74 million people voted for me. They like me. What he can't believe and accept is there's 80 million people that don't like you. That's killing him. He can't understand that. Why 80 million people don't like him. That's why he has to say the elections is rigged. There's no way 80 million people voted against. Yeah, there is. They don't like you. And it's really not about your policies, your politics, because I think this with you.
Yeah.
He could have easily won a second term. He could have easily won a second. He lost this election not because of his politics, but because of his personality, because of the person that he is. That's why he lost. People don't like him. They don't like the way he treats other human beings. They don't like the way he speaks to other human beings, the way he treats the reporters, the way he treats just average citizens. If someone says something that he doesn't agree with, instead of actually debating about it, he begins to call them names. That's so elementary to me. Dude, you're 74 years old. Grow up. And the things that his sister, his family have said about you, those are the people that know you. Your family knows you, and they haven't said anything kind about him. So, my grandfather used to say the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and so, but to answer your question, I'm excited about change. We need change. I'm glad that Biden won. Now, show us, what are you going to do? Stick to your word. It's there for you. It really is.
Very good point. I'm talking to Terry Tuff. He is a comedian, but he's also, as you can see, a political commentator and analyst, and he's been in the trenches, and he has a show called Tough Talk, and we're having some tough talk about the president and then the president-elect. When we return, I want to talk to you more about all the great work you've done in comedy, because a lot of people are not aware of Terry Tuff, the comedian who's written for some really noteworthy comedians. Back with more of Terry Tuff after this. Welcome back to the program, talking to Terry Tuff, comedian, as well as a writer and political commentator, and the host of his own show called Tough Talk. Terry, so glad that you're on the program with me, man. Look, I know a lot about your history, but I think you should just share it. You've written for a lot of great comedians out there, and yet you could have had a major deal and walked away from it, as you mentioned, because you wanted to have that integrity with your children and have them look at you in every positive light imaginable. Talk to me about your career.
Kelly, I've been in this business over 30 years now. Actually 33. My oldest son was born in July of '87, and I began doing comedy in September of '87, and I've been doing stand-up ever since. My name quickly rose into business, and so I started being bi-coastal. I would fly to Los Angeles. I'd spend 3 weeks in Los Angeles, and I'd come home for a week. Go to Los Angeles, come home for a week. I did that for about 5 years. And keep in mind, I had a young wife at home. I had 2 young boys at home. This was extremely hard on the family. But during that time, I was flying back and forth to LA. I became a regular at the Comedy Store. I signed with one of the biggest agencies in the world, APA, Agency for Performing Artists. I signed a development deal with New World Entertainment, which was created and was run by the late great Brandon Tartikoff. And so Tartikoff used to tell me all the time. He said, you know, because if you don't know who Brandon is behind the success of Jerry Seinfeld. Mm-hmm. He's behind the success of Bill Cosby, you know. And he used to tell me, you're gonna be my next Cos. You know, that's what he used to tell me all the time. But he didn't know what was going on at home because, you know, 3 weeks in LA, a week in North Carolina. My wife and I we were close to divorce. It was, I mean, because it was all about arguments. And I was sitting in a hotel, and my wife and I just had an argument on the phone, and I just got fed up. I just hung the phone up. And about 2 minutes later, the phone rang again. I said, "There she is again. I'm gonna tell her this time. I'm tired of it. I'm done. You can have, you know, take the money. I don't care." And I answered the phone, and it was my baby boy, my youngest son, Mo. And I get him, you know, it still bothers me, man.
Yeah.
Because Mo said to me, he said, Dad, you don't love us no more.
Wow.
And I'm sorry, Kelly.
It's okay, man. It's okay.
You know, I'm a hard brother.
You know, no, don't have to be hard. You can be good, because that's what I want people to see, the soul of Black American men.
Yeah.
How much we value our family.
So
and we'll go through everything.
I told Mojo, I said, Mo, Dad will always love you, no matter where I'm at, always. And after I hung the phone up, I called Brandon Tartikoff, and I said, Brandon, I got to go home for a while, you know. And he said, well, when you coming back? I said, well, I'll call you, you know. And this was in 1994. I called my manager, Michael Hubbard. I said, I'm going on home. So I caught a flight home. And to be honest with you, Kelly, I never really went back.
Yeah.
I've been back to Los Angeles, but I just left the development deal on the shelf. And Tartikoff called me about 6 months later. Well, we talked before that, but he finally called me and said, Terry, I believe in you. And I'm going to put your deal up on the shelf. And when you're ready, I'm ready. Unfortunately, he passed away not long after that. And I never went back. And the running joke used to be, Steve Harvey told me one day, he said, you know, the joke in Hollywood used to be, whatever happened to Terry Tuff?
Wow.
You know, whatever happened to Terry Tuff? Because I just kind of like walked away from the business. And I've never been able to get back to that level since then. And then that's when I started doing radio, because radio gave me that relief. It allowed me to do my humor on radio. I created characters and all kinds of things for radio. And that's when I met you.
Yeah.
That's when so it's a tough game. I love it. And one thing I want to say, I don't want to make it sound like I'm just such a great human being, because, you know, a few years after that, I was the evil Black man, because I felt like somehow my wife had played me, you know, and, you know, but after a few years, I saw the growth of my sons, and they've grown up to be incredible human beings. God had a different plan for me. And, you know, I'm successful. You know, it's not about what you've done for yourself, but what you can do for other people. And I'm doing things for other people. Look, I wrote for Monique. She won an Oscar. I've written for Ricky Smiley. I've written for Harvey. I've written for Earthquake. I've written for comedians. They've asked me to write for them, and then there's other comedians who've used my material that didn't ask me to write for them. Tracy Morgan. So you can holler at me anytime you want, Tracy, if you want to. I love Tracy. Don't get me wrong. But some of my bits are in your show. But so, you know, I'm okay. You know,
yeah, you are.
And so I truly believe what God has for me is for me. I believe that.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. And I'm just, I got to tell you, man, I love you. I'm proud of you. Love your family. And what a delight to have you on tonight. We have to have you come back on, because you do so many great impersonations as well. And I want to keep my composure on this show and not lose it by being so hysterical with you. But Terry Tuff, man, you are so brilliant. And thank you for sharing your brilliance with the world. But more importantly, thank you for being humble and allowing your transparency to help other Black men understand the role that we got to play to be better husbands, fathers, brothers. I always say on this show, we must be our brother's keeper, not our brother's killer.
That's exactly right. And Kelly, Wright, I want to thank you for having me on the show. I want to thank you for being my friend for years. For years, we sometimes we lose touch, but we never lose it in our heart. We always stay connected, and I will love you as long as I'm Black, and that will be for the rest of my life. So God bless you. God bless your family, and thank you so much for having me. And be safe. Remain safe.
Thanks, Terry. Come on anytime, man. You're a good friend. And welcome back to the program. I'd like to thank all of my guests for appearing on tonight's show. And I especially want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time out to watch. I appreciate you. In my final word, it's this. I want to get back to what Ella Fitzgerald stated. Just don't give up what you're trying to do. Where there is love and inspiration, I don't think you can go wrong. Hopefully tonight you've been righted, ignited, and united to keep spreading love, freedom, and peace. Good night, everyone.
If you don't feel the groove, it's all right. Just give it time, give it time. Come on, y'all. Get on board. Mankind won't survive if our hearts beat inside a hateful rhythm. You see, love isn't bought, but comes with a price of forgiveness, and we all bleed the same. Yeah. If you don't feel it now, just wait. It's coming on, the love train. Just give it time, give it time. Get on board. That means you, and you on the love train. Get on board. All creeds and colors, brothers, all sisters and sisters on the love train. Get on board the love train. Everyone's invited. We're all united on the love train. Get on board. All creeds and colors, my sisters and brothers, get on board on the love train. Woo-hoo! Yeah. Yeah. It's all right. Just give it time. Keep on marching on. Keep on being strong. Get on board the love train. Love train. Let's spread some love. Train, y'all. Hey.